European leaders are pitching a plan to build a drone wall to defend their airspace.
The drone wall initiative is timely and necessary because in the end we cannot spend millions of euros or dollars on missiles to take out the drones, which are only costing a couple of $1,000s. So we need a drone wall.
That's NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte commenting at this week's gathering of European Union leaders in Copenhagen. Talks of the EU building an anti-drone defense network, or drone wall, come as European leaders are accusing Russia of intentionally violating airspace. For more on what the project could look like, how much it could cost, what it would do, we're joined from Kingston this morning by Christian Leuprecht. He's a professor at the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. Christian, Munich is the latest European airport to have to close because of drone interference. In layman's terms, what is a drone wall? What would it do? How would it work?
That's a great question to start with, because there's two ways to think about this. One is going to work and one is not going to work. So if you think about this like Hadrian's Wall in Britain during Roman times, or the Maginot Line, or Hitler's Atlantic Wall, none of those worked. If you think about it in terms of Battle of Britain and scaling up on high-tech and low-tech, then it is going to work. So you're going to have detection capabilities that are going to be very high-tech, say radar, satellite, and other. You're going to have interception capabilities of a variety of sorts, and you're going to have recovery and resilience capabilities, because inherently, if Russia is really determined, some of those drones are nonetheless likely going to get through.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is calling for a strong and united response to recent Russian incursions into the EU. In September, both Poland and Romania said they intercepted Russian drones in their airspace. And then in the same month, Estonia said 3 Russian aircraft violated its airspace. So what does a drone wall change in these situations?
Yeah, and you can add to that, of course, the quasi-Russian attacks on the EU delegation in Kiev, where they deliberately hit the building across the street and then said, oh, sorry, that wasn't really meant to happen that way. So you can see that there's a very extensive hybrid effort here to try to create strategic dilemmas for European countries in a variety of domains. The drones are sort of one of the ways that Russia is doing it, but Russia has other capabilities at land, at sea, in cyber, and as we can see in the space and aerospace dimensions. And so what Europe is currently missing is, on the one hand, the escalation ladder to be able to respond to those provocations, and on the other hand, the ability to deter and contain those provocations. And I think that's what the President of the European Commission is talking about when she's talking about a drone wall, the ability not just to defend, but primarily to deter these type of actions. And that's very difficult when you have people flying drones off the Russian shadow fleet onto the Copenhagen airport, and when you have people clearly flying drones from within German territory over both military and civilian installations.
So the EU has not shared how much its drone wall proposal could cost, but you heard Rutte there talking about how right now they're spending millions to take down these drones, and really they only cost, you know, whoever's flying them thousands of dollars. What are the logistical challenges of building a drone wall?
Right, so that's a great question. Because if you're looking at using a Patriot missile, you might be spending $50,000 to $100,000 a missile to take out a drone that might cost $800. So you can see that this is not a workable proposition at the moment. And so part of this is going to be a very high-tech effort to capitalize on what Ukraine has already done, because Ukraine has effectively built not perfect defenses, but Ukraine is able to take out about 90% of Russian drones that do violate its airspace, and it does that with a variety of capabilities and technology. And clearly, Ursula, and many of those technologies already come from Europe. So this is an effort to scale that, but it's also going to have to be highly adaptable, because the adaptation cycle in the drone war between Russia and Ukraine is about 6 to 8 weeks. And so currently it takes us about 2 years to innovate defense technology. So you can see that it's going to also have to change the way we actually think about investing in defense innovation.
Is a drone wall, you know, an advancement in defenses, or is it a distraction?
Well, it's the same problem that we have, for instance, with protecting critical underwater infrastructure, so cables and pipelines, that you're going to need some very dynamic and agile capability to protect these types of assets. And so whether you're trying to do this in the aerospace domain or in the underwater domain, in some ways, you're trying to solve similar types of problems. And this is, of course, part of the reason why the European Union is spending a very large amounts of money under what's known as the Security Action for Europe program in order to incentivize not just European companies to innovate, but to work together. And interestingly, Canada has negotiated through its Security Defense Pact with the European Union an ability for Canada to be able to participate in those programs, because ostensibly, if the Russians can fly a drone to disrupt air traffic in Munich or in Copenhagen, they can do the same thing right here at Pearson.
So if we help them, would they also help us in creating a drone wall or drone defense?
So because these things are high-tech and very expensive to develop and to deploy, you want a collaboration among multiple partner and allied countries. And you'll also, in addition to Mark Rutte's concern about the asymmetry of the conflict, you'll have heard him talk about the technology gap, the emerging technology gap between China and Russia on the one hand and the West. And so I think we're in a Sputnik type of 1957 moment, and I would not be surprised if in the November 5th budget, we also see a significant investment in STEM, so science and technology in this country, as part of the way of moving allied countries forward in this very high-tech and rapidly emerging confrontational space. Because as Canadians and allied countries, we need to realize we no longer live at peace. We're not at war, but we live in a time of conflict.
You always bring up such fascinating historical references when we're talking about war. Christian, thanks for your information this morning.
Anne-Marie, it's always a pleasure. Have a lovely morning.
Yeah, have a
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.